It's official. Chelsea have become a buying to sell club. It is official. We have been told by many reports that Chelsea will need to sell players in the summer to be able to bring players in. Now, that isn't news to some. That might be news to some of you, but we seem to be the club now that wants to get rid of our players. In order to bring in new players, we're going to unpick all of that in this video. Welcome back to From the Shed End, another video. Hope everyone is doing well. Make sure if you haven't done so already, you make sure you subscribe to the channel. And also myself, Theo and Darmesh, last night we recorded our fantasy draft picks from Chelsea legends, from the likes of Didier Drogba, Frank Lampard, a couple of other hidden gems in there that we all forgot about. And we had to move some players out. Of course, we could only pick 11 each in our teams. But make sure if you haven't done so, you hit that link up there to listen to the latest version of the podcast. You'll be able to hear all our thoughts, our reasons for picking who we picked in our teams. Also, head over to, as it stands while I'm recording this, head over. You can vote for who's got the best 11 on our Twitter and Instagram page as well. But the video today is all about some of the news that's came out over the last 24 hours. Obviously, we've got the international break coming up. Thomas Tuchel will take charge of his first England squad as England head coach this week and next week. But it means no Chelsea, which is good. But it also means as well that we can unpick certain things. Now, the news that has come out recently is that, and we knew this already, is that we're going to have to sell a lot of the players that we currently have at the squad, that necessarily going to have to move on to bring in players to hopefully address some of the issues in the squad. Now, I'm not against that at all. I'm really not against that. My problem with the way that we're doing this business is this is the third attempt at us bringing players in to sell them on, to then bring in more players. And it hasn't worked the last two times. If you think back to when we signed Sterling, we signed Koulibaly, Malang Sarr. All these players we've brought in have moved on, whether that's on loan or permanent moves away from the club. We then brought in the likes of Pedro Neto, João Felix, other players that again, it hasn't worked out for us. Like, it hasn't worked out. And now we look like we're going to go for the third attempt to move in some of those players that we've already just brought into the club, the David Washingtons and all those other players. We're going to sell them on to bring in more players. I mean, it's great when it works. It's great if it works, but when it doesn't work, comes a problem. Now, the club are going to have to, well, they haven't going to have to, they have registered a loss this year in the financial year of 250 million pounds. That's quite a lot of money they're going to have to recoup somewhere. Now, the first instance, you're going to be talking about players moving on. Now, the list of players I think will move on are basically some of the players that are out on loan. Axel Dezazi, Kani Chukwuemeka, Ben Chilwell, I reckon will leave the club as well in that time. We could even see the likes of Mudryk go, Badiashile, Bettinelli. Some of these players that have just not featured enough for us this season in the squad. João Felix could be another one. We only brought him in really to get rid of Conor Gallagher. But you do look at the likes of maybe Trevor Chalobah, maybe even Josh Ashiempong, Tariq George. I could guarantee you one of those might leave in the summer. Pure profit, help to balance the books out. But that's all well and good if we're getting rid of the players that we need to. Only if we're addressing the issues that we need to address in the squad. If we're freeing up spaces in our squad and we're bringing, selling players on, to only bring in a 16 or 17-year-old, what's the point? What do we gain from that? What do we gain from that? Because at the end of the day, we're still going to be in the same position as we are now, where in 12 months' time, we're going to have to then bring in more players to do the job that the players that we've just signed aren't doing. It goes back to what we said on this channel before. We need to get the spine of the team right. We need to get the players in that we need to get in. That's a defender. That's a goalkeeper. That's a striker that can score goals. That's all of those things. If we don't address any of those things, what's the point? What's the point? It doesn't make any sense why we would even think to bring other youngsters into this team as it currently is at the moment without the necessary steps to get the players that we know we need in. Now, we could go and sell players to free up money to then go and get Victor Gyökeres or maybe Victor Osimhen. I actually don't think we're going to do that. I don't think we're going to sign Victor Osimhen or Victor Gyökeres. I think the plan is to sign, the likelihood, I think we will sign Liam Delap. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. But I don't think Liam Delap is the answer that we need at Chelsea. I feel like we need someone that is solid, proven, European proven, played in the Champions League. If we make it into the Champions League, and I said this last week, we're going to need a Champions League squad. Now, Liam Delap, good player, very good player for Ipswich. I don't think he's going to kick it against Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid and Barcelona, Bayern Munich. I just don't think he's that level that we need. The reason I think we'll sign Liam Delap is because the wage structure that we currently have in 150 grand a week is what we're told currently is the cap, the top cap, the benchmark for signing players. It has to fit into our wage structure that it currently is at the moment. That's part of the model. But we might have to break that wage structure in order to get the players that we need in, because there are going to be clubs coming in for Victor Gyokeres or Victor Osimhen in the summer. Now, if we miss out on those top targets and we do make Champions League, there's going to be a question as to what's the point in being in the Champions League if we're not going to be able to win it? I don't want to be the Arsenal of being in the Champions League and we're only in it to make numbers up. I want to be in the Champions League because I feel like we were able to win it. Now, if we can't do that because we don't have the squad, that falls back on the sporting directors again for not addressing what we needed to address in the summer. We have to get things right. And this summer, I think I've said it before, this is a crucial one. This is one that Todd Bowley and Egbali have said, judge us in 3 transfer windows. Well, this is the third one. This is the third one. This is the one that we need to get right. If we don't get it right, it's on the owners. It's on the sporting directors. They have to get this right and spot on. There's no ifs or buts about it. They have to get it right. Now, there is Mike Penders coming in, and he's been quoted as being one of the in between Edison, I think, and Thibaut Courtois. Now, apparently he's not good with his feet, from what we're being told. Some of the quotes come out this morning that he's not the best with his feet, but he can get that level of quality that Edison has shown for Man City. He better get good with his feet, because we know that Enzo Maresca, should he still be at the club by the time Penders joins, he's going to want him to play out from the back with his feet. So he has to get good with his feet, Penders. I'm looking forward to seeing him come in. I'm not too concerned about the age of him, because I think with goalkeepers, you could be 20, 21 and still be a good goalkeeper. I think that's benefit. That's a good thing for us. I'm thinking of the longevity of having a really solid goalkeeper in our goal. And if all the quotes, the things that we're hearing about him are true, and he's actually a very good goalkeeper, then that addresses one of the issues already about Robert Sanchez, who I would put on the list of players that need to leave in the summer. That addresses that issue already. He ticks the box, frees up more money to address the defender and the striker options. So I would say let's give Penders a chance if he can do it. I still don't think, again, I haven't watched much football of him, so I don't know how well he is in between the sticks. I don't know if he's a good goalkeeper or good enough goalkeeper. But if he is, and the quotes are what we're hearing are good, and he can do the job for us next season, why go and sign another goalkeeper when we've got that many on the books? I think we need to get rid of Sanchez. I think we need to get rid of Bettinelli. I think we could use Petrovic and Penders potentially as our goalkeepers next season. But we have to get that number 9 sorted. And Liam Delap, for me, is almost like, when you go to Tesco or Asda, and sometimes you go in there and you want to buy something, but they've got a yellow sticker on because it's a little bit cheaper than the actual version of the thing that you want. I feel like that's what we're doing when we talk about our strikers. I feel like we're trying to go and see the discount section to see if there's anything on offers over in the discount section. No, let's just go to the actual bit where the fresh stuff is, the things that we actually want to eat and have got a longer sell-by date on them. Let's not go to the yellow section with the stickers on for 20p. Let's go to the proper section, because at the moment, I feel like that's what we're doing. We're trying to skim up the top corners. You can't do that in football. You have to go and get the top players at the top club if you want to be a top club. It's as simple as that. We have to go and get a top striker this summer. And if that's Osimhen or if it's Gyökeres, it has to be one of those two. Bringing in Liam Delap, for me, is covering over the cracks again. It's almost a Nicholas Jackson part 2. I don't know if he's going to be able to compete at the top level week in, week out. He looks good at Ipswich because he's playing at Ipswich. But when you're at Chelsea, it's a whole different ballgame. Go and ask Rasmus Højlund about that. We can't just have players coming in because, 1, he's English, he'll help with the English quota, and 2, because he's the cheaper option. No, because in the long term, we're going to have to go and replace him anyway with another striker. So go and get the striker we need now, address it now, problem solved. Problem solved. But there does sound like there's going to be a massive fire sale at Chelsea this summer again. We knew it was coming. If you've been listening to these videos, we've been talking about it plenty of time on here. There was going to be a fire sale, very similar to the Ruben Loftus cheap ones and Mason Mount. We could even see the pure profit guys go. We could see actually Mpong, Tariq George, Trevor Chalobah. We could see them all leave in the summer, and that is worrying because I do really like actually Mpong and Tariq George. But maybe that's one of the reasons why Maresca's been told to play them in the senior spot to get clubs interested in buying them to move them on in the summer. We don't know. We don't know. Let's wrap up the video by hearing what John Terry has had to say about Reece James. Now, it looks like John Terry has had a conversation recently about Reece James ahead of the England games coming up in the next couple of days or so. Apparently, according to John Terry, and I'm going to quote some of his words here, I agree with that in terms of Tuchel's assessment. I see him as a defender. I don't like it, to be honest, people drifting into midfield. I think it's more confusing. John Terry was talking ahead of the game against, I think it's Latvia and Albania this weekend and the next week as well. Now, obviously, Reece James came out, did an interview for ITV, and I think he was asked the question, who is the best manager that he's played under? Now, he did come out and say Thomas Tuchel, and apparently the video was taken down off social media for whatever reason, whether that was because, I don't know, you have to ask ITV, but he did come out and say basically he feels that Thomas Tuchel, based on the situation that he was put in with the sanctions, with the transfer ban, with the expectation of winning the Champions League, going on to win the Club World Cup as well. Reece James has come out and said that he's won so much at Chelsea in a short span of time with Thomas Tuchel, which makes him the best manager that he's worked under. Now that doesn't sound good for Enzo Maresca, doesn't sound good for the ownership as well, which is probably why this video was taken down from ITV's website. But I agree with John Terry as well. And I did say last week, so I'm contradicting myself here, that Reece James should be in the midfield. But it hasn't worked out in the 2 games that we've seen him play in that role. I think we need to give Reece James time in the midfield to see if he can adapt and play there. We know that he played there for Wigan many years ago. Things have changed in football since then. Reece James has changed in terms of his style of play as well, his football, and what the manager wants him to do currently at the club. So things are different. But there's also a question mark, does Reece James get sold in the summer? If Real Madrid miss out on Trent, did they come in for Reece James? You don't know. He was almost, if you remember, there was clubs calling in for him last summer, and he come out, I think, and said he wants to potentially play in warmer climates and, adjust the warmer climate of football to hopefully prolong his football career, help with some of his injury days ticking up. So if that is the case, do we lose Reece James? Do we lose Reece James? Is he part of the fire sale? We don't know, but it is interesting that he's come out and he's kind of almost top trumped Thomas Tuchel as the manager that he feels was the best that he works under, even though the manager that's currently there may have something to say about that. But it's Reece James. He can say what he wants. He's on England duty. I'm sure he's going to have to answer back to Maresca when he gets back to Cobham. But I don't disagree with that. I think, we said on the podcast yesterday, Thomas Tuchel won such, major trophies for Chelsea in such a short space of time and wasn't really given the opportunity to continue to grow and progress with Chelsea as well. So Reece James isn't wrong in what he's saying. It just doesn't look good for Enzo Maresca, the current Chelsea manager, when you're hearing that from a current player that plays for Chelsea or club captain coming out and saying that. So we'll have to see how that unfolds over the next couple of days. Does he start against Tottenham? He might be dropped. You never know. But let me know what you think in the comments. Who should be sold for Chelsea in the summer? Who do we need to get rid of? Who do we need to keep? Who do we need to retain at the club? And who needs to be moved on? Who do we need to bring in? Is Liam Delap the answer to the question? Or should we be going for Victor Gyokeres or Victor Osimhen? Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll be back very soon with another video.